Hello, this is Jake the Snake Plumber, former NFL legend.
Hey everybody, this is voice actor Bob Bergen.
Hello, this is Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger.
Hello everybody, this is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Men.
Hello to all my friends at the Derek Diamond Experience. Me, Mario.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you are listening.
And you are listening.
And you're listening to the
This is Derek Diamond Experience!
You know, as many times as I hear that intro, and I haven't broken it out in a while, it never gets old. Welcome everyone to episode 394 of the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, where every week I talk about the inner workings of the entertainment industry with those who have lived it and experienced it. I am your host, Derek Diamond. And most importantly, it's the 10-year anniversary episode of this podcast. I've been talking about it for weeks, probably months, that this was coming up. And if you're listening to this the day it comes out, the actual 10-year anniversary was yesterday, March 17th, aka St. Patrick's Day. But as you know, the show releases episodes on Mondays, so we're celebrating today, March 18th, 2024. And you know, I've been thinking the last couple of weeks, because I have been taking a bit of a break from podcasting in general. I've had a lot going on in my personal life, between starting pre-production on another short film that my wife is going to be directing. A lot of stuff going on with freelance work, my day job. I've been having to travel quite a bit for that. Wrapping up my edit of The Walker, my friend Steve Wise's movie, who has been on the show numerous times. So I needed a break. I just needed to take a couple of weeks where I didn't really do anything with podcasting, or, you know, really much in general. Haven't watched too many movies, haven't played too many video games. It's been kind of a wild couple of weeks, but this has been what I've really been looking forward to, the 10-year celebration of this podcast. And I was thinking about what I was going to say, and I still don't quite know how to put it into words. I never expected the show to last this long, but you guys keep listening, so I'm gonna keep doing it. You know, I originally thought, well, if I make it to 25 episodes, that was my original goal when I started this show back in 2014. It's like, I'll make it to 25 episodes and then see where it goes from there. 25 turned into 50, 50 turned into 100, so on and so forth. And here we are, almost 400 episodes later. And for those that have listened to the show or watched the show from the beginning, you know the story behind it. You know, I grew up with some pretty bad social anxieties, and I wanted a way to kind of rid myself of those. And I thought, if I start my own podcast, because I was doing, you know, the Nerd Cave podcast with some friends of mine, but I wanted to do my own solo show where I interviewed people, because it would force me to get out of my comfort zone and get to meet new people. And I have done that. You know, for those that listen to my other show, Nerd Cave Retro, that I co-host with Jason Robbins, that's how we met. He was a guest on the show. He was actually the third guest I had. And from there, you know, our friendship blossomed. We stayed in touch and eventually decided to do our own podcast together. And through that show, I've met people that I talk to, you know, still to this day. And that wouldn't have happened, at least in my humble opinion. It would not have happened if not for this show, the Derek Diamond Experience. So I owe a lot to this podcast. You know, I've gotten the opportunity to chat with some really cool people. I don't want to turn this into a top 5 list of my favorite episodes, but I think this is the occasion where I can kind of brag on myself a little bit. And we will be getting into the main portion of the show here in just a few minutes. But, you know, getting to interview Jake Plummer, who was a quarterback in the NFL, played for the Denver Broncos and Arizona Cardinals, that was the first. I don't want to knock any of the other guests that I had on before that, but one that was more widely recognized. He was the first, and I still remember sitting in the executive suite at the Blue Wahoo Stadium at my old job and being nervous waiting for him to call into Skype. Yes, Skype, that's how far this show goes back. And I knew, even back then, I knew a few seconds into the episode that it was going to be really good. And since then, I've gotten to talk with Jim Cummings, the voice of Darkwing Duck. I've got to chat with Rob Paulson, who's voiced Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, Yakko from Animaniacs. I've gotten to interview Jim Ross, WWE Hall of Famer, and in my opinion, the greatest wrestling announcer of all time. And the list goes on of people that I've got to talk with. Kevin Eastman, one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would have never imagined 10 years ago that I would have gotten to chat with those people. And hopefully that's not the last, because the show will likely be going through a little bit of change in the next couple of weeks, but we'll worry about that in the coming weeks. You can stay tuned to my social media for that. But for now, the show is back every week. Again, I apologize for those that have been missing episodes for the last couple of weeks, but it was time to take a little break. But I'm excited to be back. I feel re-energized. I've been able to get, a lot of rest, which has really eluded me for the last several months, but here we are. And this episode is going to be a little different than your normal top 5 episodes. First of all, because it's not a top 5 list. I knew with this occasion, 10-year anniversary, I wanted to do a top 10 list. And thankfully that was echoed in the numerous polls that I put out on social media. And this is what everyone wanted me to do, was a top 10 list. And we picked a topic that I think is absolutely worthy of a top 10 list. This could have been top 20. Top 10 cartoon theme songs. And I'm really excited to get into this. Before we do, though, I did put this out on social media as well, that if you wanted to send in a soundbite talking about, some of your favorite memories, or just, kind of a congratulatory message about the podcast, feel free to do so, and I will play it on the episode. And we're going to play a few of those now before we get into the main topic of today's show. These first 3 sound bites are from 3 former guests of the podcast. Jason Robbins, who I mentioned earlier, my co-host over at the Nerd Cave Retro podcast. Wally Phelps, who has joined us for numerous roundtable discussions. He also joins us for our commentary episodes over on NCR. And Joey Image, retired professional wrestler. Had him on the podcast several years ago, and he's a regular over on the Nerd Cave Retro community. So enjoy those 3 clips, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Derek. It's your good pal and co-host over on the Nerd Cave Retro show, Jason Robbins. And I just want to say congratulations on 10 years of the Derek Diamond Experience. 10 years is an amazing feat. Most podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes. You went 10 years. You've had so many good episodes, so many good interviews, all the roundtables that we've done together. Some of my favorite moments are, of course, being a huge Tron fan. Your interview with Cindy Morgan, rest in peace. Your interview with Kevin Eastman. I mean, you've had some amazing people on your show. And your show is amazing. 10 years. Congrats, my friend. So I love you. And here's to 10 more. Cheers.
Derek, you have been doing this show for 10 years. That's longer than my marriage lasted, which means I'm afraid of commitment. But your commitment to quality podcasting and amazing interviews has always inspired me and made me a little jealous, because not only are you better looking than I am, but you also speak to more famous people. And I am looking forward to, I don't know if you could do this another 20 years without becoming burned out. But if you cannot, just remember that I am here and I would be happy to take over. It'll be weird that I would be doing the Derek Diamond podcast, but I think I could do it. Congratulations, Derek. and live long and smoke meat.
Hey, this is your Italian hero and your favorite retired professional wrestler, Joey Image here. Just want to give a quick shout out to Derek and the Derek Diamond Experience. Congrats on 10 years, bro. I had a blast doing your show a few years ago. I've had a blast listening to several episodes over the last 10 years. And congrats, man. This is awesome. And here's to another 10.
I'll be honest, I listened to those 3 clips whenever they were sent last night, and I got a little choked up by it. You know, it's one thing to get recognized by, you know, Joe Schmo on Facebook or Instagram, but you know, when your friends say stuff like that, it warms the soul, and it justifies me continuing to do this podcast. So without further ado, here is top 10 cartoon theme songs. This was such a fun list to do, and it's echoed by that, by the response. This has been, I think, the most popular list that I've ever done on this podcast. We got almost 30 submissions, so we've got a lot to get to before we get to that, though. I'm going to do this a little different than I have in the past. Again, this is an occasion that I think calls for it. I'm going to be listing my list per usual. For those that have never watched or listened to a list show that we do here, I list my top 5, you know, whatever the topic is for that month, and give kind of a brief explanation why. And then I read your list that you submit through social media, email, and I'll get into the nuts and bolts of that a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do for this episode, because there are so many great cartoon theme songs, I'm going to be playing little snippets that's going to reveal my top 10 plus a few honorable mentions that unfortunately didn't make the cut. So what I love the most about cartoon theme songs, and I was having this conversation with my wife the other day, you know, you can be excited to watch a show, and when you hear the intro for it, it just really gets you in the mindset of watching that particular show. You know, a lot of theme songs will kind of summarize what the show is about, highlight some of the characters, or you just have a really cool beat or a really cool soundtrack that don't need vocals. And there's a couple on my list that didn't need any, but we'll get into that right now. So kicking things off, here is my number 10. King of the Hill, one of the most underrated cartoons of really my generation. I remember when this show started back in the day, and it's rumored to, you know, have a revival. We'll see what happens with that. But this is one of those situations where I actually enjoyed the theme song more than the cartoon. And I'm not knocking the cartoon because I thought it was great, and I still enjoy going back and watching it from time to time. But as soon as you hear that little acoustic riff, the dun 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 dun, you know what you're in for. And then you hear the dun 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 dun, you hear that really fast-paced guitar and the time lapse of Hank and the guys drinking beer in front of the fence. It's just classic 90s cartoon humor at its best. And it's so fun to just go back and listen to. If I had a playlist of theme songs that I would listen to, this would absolutely make the rotation. But here is number 9.
It's time for Animaniacs, and we're zany to the max. So just sit back and relax, you'll laugh when you collapse. We're Animaniacs.
How could you not include Animaniacs on your top 10 list? It's one of those themes that absolutely encapsulates what the show is about. It captures that fun beat with the build up to the Warner siblings popping out of the water tower, them singing the song. I like that it's different every episode. There's always a little jingle at the end before the Animaniacs. Those are the facts. There's a little something that's different every episode which I think is really cool. It highlights some of the other characters that were in the show. It's just such a fun beat, and I can't get enough of it. Next up, here is number 8.
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. He's our powers magnified, and he's fighting on the planet side.
I don't know why this song was put in the end credits and not in the intro. It will never make any sense to me, but Captain Planet is my number 8. This is another one of those examples that I like the theme song more than the cartoon. I did watch the cartoon, but it wasn't like a must-watch experience growing up. But that theme song is so catchy. You want to go out and protect the earth. At least I do when I hear that song. It's just so motivating and upbeat. Everything from the lyrics to the soundtrack beneath it. It's just so good. And it's one that, I don't think it immediately comes up in conversation when people talk about it. But this is one that is an absolute must put on any top 10 list. But here is number 7.
Blue streak speeds by. Sonic the Hedgehog. Too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog.
For those that know me personally, you know that this had to be in my top 10 list. Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the numerous incarnations of Sonic the Hedgehog in the 90s on your television screen. This is from the series that is popularly called Sat AM, meaning that it aired on Saturday mornings on ABC. This is one that I never remember if the show is based off the comic book or if the comic book was based off the show, but this is still my favorite incarnation of Sonic throughout the numerous games, even the new movies that have come out over the last couple of years. This is my favorite version of Sonic. I like that there are other characters that he can have interactions with and can relate to. I like this incarnation of Robotnik. I love the Jim Carrey version. I like the Goofy one, but the Robotnik from this cartoon was truly intimidating. From the mechanical sounding voice, the fact that he was so large and imposing, he was partially robotic too, but this captures the spirit of Sonic. Everything from the fast-paced beat, the lyrics, it sounds like a 90s rock song that you would hear on the radio. And what's cool is that Johnny Gioeli from Crush 40 and former guest of this show actually recorded a version of this song for the upcoming season 3 that is being done of the cartoon. I think it was funded through Patreon, or it might have been through Kickstarter. I can't quite remember, but I know that it is currently being worked on, and he recorded a version of this particular song. And I think it's great. I think it's going to fit that show once it does come out. But yeah, this is one that I had to include, and it might surprise you that it's this low on my list, but that should tell you how many great theme songs there are. But let's keep going with my number 6. The wonderful guitar track from Joe Perry of Aerosmith. My number 6 is Spider-Man the Animated Series, which you might remember from the 90s. Some might think that the original version of the Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s is the definitive theme song, and yeah, it's one of the most recognizable. But if you grew up in the 90s, you couldn't help but love this amazing guitar track from Joe Perry. There's really not any lyrics besides Spider-Man and the radioactive spider blood, but you didn't really need it because everything from the quick cuts, the explosions, the glimpses of all the villains, of Spider-Man, Mary Jane, and a lot of the other characters, this perfectly encapsulated a cartoon from the 90s. It had that 90s feel. It captured the essence of Spider-Man, in my opinion, for that time. It is just such a cool track. Moving into my top 5, here's number 5.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales, woo. Every day they're out there making DuckTales, woo.
I asked this question on Facebook the other day. Is life still like a hurricane in Duckburg? I imagine it is, because life is like a hurricane in real life. My number 5 is DuckTales, of course, the popular Disney cartoon from the late 80s, and got a recent revival back in 2017. But the original theme song is so catchy, that dun 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 dun, dun, and seeing, the glimpses of Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie going on different treasure hunts, going on different adventures. And you can't help but, and I'm actually doing it right now, I'm imagining the song and I'm tapping my foot to it. It's one of those that it stays in your head, no matter how hard you try to get it out. But it's not a bad thing. I absolutely love the DuckTales theme song. It's one that has stuck with me ever since I watched the cartoon for the first time. I remember in the early days of being able to pirate music from the internet, I discovered the full version of the DuckTales theme song, and I'm like, what? There's a full-length version of this? And it's great. I love it. But DuckTales is great. Not only a great theme song, but a great show as well. Moving on, here is my number 4.
Somewhere some villain schemes, but his number's up. 3, 2, 1. Darkwing Duck. When there's trouble, you call me W. Darkwing Duck.
Let's get dangerous.
Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck.
This might be a little controversial, but I put Darkwing Duck over DuckTales at my number 4. Which is funny because I think DuckTales is a much better show, but there's something about that kind of nighttime beat, that smooth singer that is singing throughout this theme song, that just is, this song can almost be like an addiction in a way. When you hear that daring duck of mystery, you just want to dance to it a little bit. And I've been trying to hold back dancing throughout this whole video, or audio if you're listening to the audio version. But Darkwing Duck, it captures again the essence of the show. It is comedic. It is about a crime fighter or vigilante, and it happens to take place in a universe with walking, talking animals. It captures the show perfectly. And I even love the end credit version as well with the saxophone. And someone put together a cut of the song that includes the two of them, the intro and the outro, and it's so good. And there have been great, other covers of this theme song. There's a cool metal version. There's so many great ones, but this is one of my favorite theme songs, obviously because it's in my top 4. But moving on, here is my number 3.
Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend. In a world we must defend. Pokemon.
I want to be the very best like no one ever was. Pokemon, the anime, the original anime, is my number 3. I remember thinking I was a little old for Pokemon. I was, I think, 12, maybe shortly about to turn 13 when the video games made their way to America. But me being a gamer, I was drawn to them. I thought the concept was really cool. And of course, that original set of games hooked me, and still some of my favorite video game experiences of all time. And I remember not knowing there was a cartoon until my mom took me to Books A Million, and I found a VHS tape with the first 3 or 4 episodes of the show, and it had Pikachu in the center, and it had Ash and Misty in the background. And it blew my mind. I'm like, there's a Pokemon show? And then I come to find out that it aired on WB, which we didn't get, unfortunately. So I had to buy the VHS tapes in order to keep up with the show. But that song, from the very beginning, when you hear the "Dah," it gets you amped. And this is a song that I even have, on my workout playlist whenever I go for a run or I'm working out in the gym. It's motivating. The singer is great. It's just so motivating, and it, again, captures the essence of the show. It makes you want to go out on a Pokemon adventure. If you grew up, around the time that I did, or you were a little younger, you remember the Pokemon cartoon and that theme song. But it's absolutely... My top 3 were a no-brainer. It was just where to rank them. So you might be wondering, Sonic wasn't this high, so what could be number 2? Well, here is my number 2. You knew this had to be in my top 10 list. The original X-Men, the animated series theme. What a theme song. It's one of the best of all time. It doesn't need any lyrics. It's just that as soon as you hear that, you picture Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Charles Xavier. I don't know what else to say about it, really, except that it captures the essence of the 90s. It captures the X-Men. As I said, it doesn't need any lyrics. All you need is that simple guitar riff and the rest of the music that goes along with it. It gets you amped, like I said, with the Pokemon theme. I'm really excited for X-Men 97 to come back, which is actually going to be later this week, after years, it seems like, of just waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm sure there's going to be a remixed version of this, or they may use the original. I don't know. If they use the original, I'm not going to complain. But you'd be hard-pressed to find a list that doesn't include this. So I know what you're probably thinking. X-Men isn't number 1. Sonic wasn't number 1. I didn't have any Nickelodeon songs. What could be my number 1? Well, before we get to that, here are my honorable mentions. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a silver.
Inspector Gadget. BoJack Horseman. Archer. Doug. And Tailspin.
Friends for life, through thick and thin, with another tail to spin. Oh,
And here is my number one. You might think that this was a tough choice, but it really wasn't. As soon as we decided that we were going to do this list for the show, I knew instantly what my number one was going to be, and that is the theme song from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon that started in 1987. No song, in my opinion, encapsulates the spirit, the mood, and the pure funness of a show like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I know that could be up for debate, and like if someone put the X-Men as their number one, I'm not going to dispute it. If someone put, Pokemon or DuckTales as their number one, I wouldn't dispute it because these lists are all subjective. But with the Ninja Turtles being one of my favorite fandoms, it's probably in my top 3. I always go back to this show and this theme song as the essence and the spirit of what the show is. Everything from the lyrics, the quick cuts to the different turtles, they're summed up very shortly. Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines. It captures their characters perfectly in just a few simple words. Everything from the glimpses of Shredder, flying around in the turtle blimp, seeing April O'Neil drive the turtle van, Splinter, the Technodrome, all of it is included in the intro. And it's just so, so great. And it takes me back to a much simpler time, as I'm sure a lot of these theme songs do for you. So that is my top 10 list for top 10 cartoon theme songs. And now we're going to get to my favorite part of these lists, reading your lists. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a ton of submissions, so we're gonna fly through these as quickly as possible, but still want to give the ample amount of time for everyone. So we're gonna start out with my better half, my queen, Samantha Owens Diamond. Her honorable mention is Inspector Gadget. Number 10, The Real Ghostbusters, which is another great one too. It's a slightly different take on the Ghostbusters theme song from the movie, but it's still great. I love The Real Ghostbusters theme. Number 9, Recess, another great 90s cartoon, and again, it didn't need any lyrics. You just hear that dun dun. You know that you're in for a fun time when you hear that song. Number 8, Goof Troop. I feel like Goof Troop gets a little overlooked when it comes to the other Disney cartoons, but Goof Troop was still fun, and the theme song is great too. Number 7, DuckTales. We talked about that one with my list. Number 6, SpongeBob SquarePants. That's one of the most recognizable songs of all time. From when you hear that, the wind and the ocean, and then you hear the pirate go, "Are you ready, kids?" It is so great. I love the SpongeBob theme. Number 5, Fairly Odd Parents. Number 4, Pinky and the Brain. Number 3, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. I might get some flack for not including that in my list, but it is a great theme song. Chip 'n Dale. Number 2, What's New, Scooby-Doo. And number 1, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Next up, we have a friend of the show and former guest, Mr. Brandon Rutledge. He says, "Hey Derek, Brandon here. Got my list for you down below. I purposely avoided anime as that would easily be its own list. I also tried to not oversaturate my list with 90s shows. I can understand how tough that is. His honorable mentions are Animaniacs, Batman the Animated Series, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Doug, DuckTales, good luck getting this song out of your head, Freakazoid, Goof Troop." Those are his honorable mentions. Freakazoid's another one too. I remember looking up several lists, to just kind of compare mine to others that have put theirs out there, and Freakazoid was a pretty popular choice too. Number 10, Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Number 9, SWAT Cats. Number 8, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sat AM. Number 7, Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. I've never heard of that one. I'll have to check that one out. Number 6, Samurai Jack, also a very good one. Number 5, X-Men, the animated series. Number 4, Bluey. That's another really popular one these days. Number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, three-way tie between 1987, 2003, and 2012. The 2003 song is great too. Turtles counted off, 1, 2. I won't get into it. I don't want to lose my listener base by singing. Number 2, Pinky and the Brain, and number 1, Darkwing Duck. Jason Robbins. Number 10, The Tick. Number 9, X-Men. Number 8, The Bugs Bunny Overture, This Is It. Number 7, The Real Ghostbusters. Number 6, Tailspin. Number 5, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original theme song. Number 4, the 80s G.I. Joe theme. Number 3, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Number 2, Batman the Animated Series. And number 1, DuckTales. Woo! Michael Dixon. Number 10, Inspector Gadget. Number 9, Banana Man. Number 8, Danger Mouse. Number 7, Fraggle Rock. I know that Fraggle Rock is technically a live action show, but I gave it to him. Number 6, G.I. Joe. 5, Denver the Last Dinosaur. Number 4, The Simpsons. 3, King of the Hill. 2, American Dad, and number 1, Speed Racer. Go, Speed Racer, go. Bill Lyons, former guest of the show. He has 2 honorable mentions. His first is Godzilla and Godzuki. Number 1 of his honorable mentions, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. Number 10, Animaniacs. Number 9, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. 8, DuckTales. Woo! Number 7, TMN to the MF and T. 6, Darkwing Duck. 5, Mighty Ducks. 4, Batman the Animated Series. 3, Gundam Wing. 2, Dragon Ball Z, the Ocean Dub, aka Rock the Dragon. I've actually been doing a DBZ rewatch, and I want to do some kind of Dragon Ball Z episode fairly soon. And number 1, Pokemon. It's the best there ever was. Come on. He also says, a couple of observations. It's funny how some of your favorite tunes aren't your favorite theme songs. And Disney destroyed Nick in the theme game. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm surprised that, and even myself, that I didn't include Rocko's Modern Life or Ren and Stimpy, Angry Beavers. There are a lot of great Nickelodeon theme songs, but I don't know. I was a Nickelodeon fanatic, but I like the Disney songs more. So I agree with Bill in that. Jared Cash, he just has one entry. He says, this is my entire list because they got Billy Dean to sing a cartoon theme. Perfection. The Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa. I had completely forgot about this show until he submitted this, and thankfully he left a link to the theme song. And it just unlocks some memories. It's a really good theme song. Wally Phelps, in no particular order, the end credits for BoJack Horseman, X-Men, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons, Transformers, More Than Meets the Eye, 4, Darkwing Duck, 3, The Real Ghostbusters, 2, Batman the Animated Series, and number 1, DuckTales. I thought that his 2 and 3 would have been flipped. I thought that Real Ghostbusters might have been his number 2. Alicia Marie, former guest of the show, the writer and director of Zombies. DuckTales is the jammiest of the jams. Darkwing Duck, the show, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Rescue Rangers, Jim and the Holograms, Muppet Babies, and Tailspin. I forgot about Muppet Babies. That was a really fun show. Willis Cannon, X-Men the Animated Series times 10. I don't argue that. It's that good of a theme song. Jason Privet, Dungeons and Dragons, the end credit theme. Trick or Treat, Donald Duck. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Animaniacs, the original Tom and Jerry theme. The Simpsons, Smurfs, SpongeBob, Hong Kong Phooey, and DuckTales. Leah Diamond, a.k.a. my Aunt Leah, Inspector Gadget, The Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, The Jetsons, Batman, Fat Albert, Little Rascals, Mickey Mouse Club, Bugs Bunny, and Conjunction Junction. Schoolhouse Rock was so fun. Conjunction Junction, what's your function? Blake Roney from the show Kablam, Two-Tone Army. I haven't thought about Kablam in like 15 to 20 years. But that thank you for that trip down memory lane. Corey Ladner, number 10, King of the Hill. 9, Alvin and the Chipmunks. 8, Gummy Bears. 7, The Flintstones. 6, Sophia the First. She notes, my kid was obsessed. Number 5, The Simpsons. 4, Inspector Gadget. 3, DuckTales. 2, Scooby-Doo. And number 1, The Jetsons. Joey Image, in no particular order. G.I. Joe, He-Man, and the Masters of the Universe. We actually just did, the two of us plus Jason and Wally, we did a really fun commentary track where we watched the first episode of He-Man. That was a lot of fun. You can check that out over at the Nerd Cave Retro Show. DuckTales, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Flintstones, Inspector Gadget, Transformers, Scooby-Doo, Looney Tunes / Merry Melodies. That's a good one. The Super Mario Brothers rap from the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. And his honorable mentions, Smurfs, Mask, and Hulk Hogan Rockin' Wrestling. I knew he had to include that in his list. Wade Vatican, G.I. Joe, DuckTales, woo! The first Ninja Turtles cartoon, Thundercats, ho! Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? The Jetsons, The Flintstones, Josie and the Pussycats, Garfield and Friends. I forgot about Garfield and Friends. That was such a fun little beat, too. Come on in, come to the place where fun never ends. Rocko's Modern Life, and the X-Men. Shannon Williams, Scooby-Doo, Looney Tunes, The Flintstones, The Jetsons, Rescue Rangers, Hong Kong Phooey, Quick Draw McGraw, Wally Gator, Fat Albert, and Tom and Jerry. Next up, we have Carlos Longoria over at the Nerd Cave Retro podcast. We call him I Am the Rampage. Number 10, Mask. Number 9, The Tick, Spoon. 8, Transformers G1. 7, G.I. Joe. Disney's Gummy Bears is his number 6. 5, Tailspin. Number 4, 90s Spider-Man. Number 3, Rock the Dragon, a.k.a. Dragon Ball Z. 2, DuckTales. Number 1, X-Men. Stephen J. Worthen. Tonight's Double D Experience Top 10 coming to you from the home offices in Butte, Montana. Number 10, Family Guy. Number 9, Tailspin. Number 8, DuckTales. Number 7, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. 6, Gummy Bears. 5, Darkwing Duck. 4, Hong Kong Phooey. 3, G.I. Joe. Number 2, Transformers. And number 1, Thundercats. Let's see, we've got a few more here. We've got Steve Wise, Batman the Animated Series, The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Avatar The Last Airbender, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? That's a popular intro. That's been on almost every list. Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, X-Men, The Bugs Bunny / Roadrunner Show, and The Flintstones. Greg Parker, he just has one Hong Kong Phooey. That's a good one. Jonathan McIntosh, Mask, G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Robotech, Inspector Gadget, Spider-Man, Superman the Animated Series. That's an underrated one, in my opinion. It's got a kind of a chill beat, but still captures that heroic essence, that da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da-da. Batman the Animated Series, and Silverhawks. Nick Flagstar, DuckTales, Scooby-Doo, and the Flintstones. Nick Smith, another former guest of the show. Scooby-Doo, Dogtanian, I hope I'm saying that right, Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds. Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man 67, Ulysses 31, Sport Billy, Samurai Jack, Masters of the Universe, Hong Kong Phooey, and Cowboy Bebop. And closing us out with the top 10 cartoon theme songs is Mr. Armez Jackson. Number 10, Count Duckula. Number 9, Rugrats. 8, Scooby-Doo. 7, Batman the Animated Series. 6, Gummy Bears. 5, Gargoyles. Number 4, Darkwing Duck. 3, Batman Beyond. I forgot how good of a theme Batman Beyond was until I watched an episode of that show. Funny enough, a few days ago. I just randomly thought about it. Maybe it was seeing Michael Keaton at the Oscars, because I've said for years that he should be brought back to do a live-action adaptation of Batman Beyond. But that kind of sparked me to watch the show, and I forgot that kind of like futuristic club rave feel that it has. But it's a great theme. Number 2, Thundercats, and number 1, DuckTales. And that's going to do it for top 10 cartoon theme songs. A lot of great lists, and this could have easily been a top 20. I do want to revisit this topic for a future episode. Not so much to do another top 10 list, but if you've ever watched or listened to the Big Picture podcast, they do a movie draft where they take, it's usually a panel of 3 or 4 people, and they pick a year in which they draft movies, like the NFL draft. So say like if the main host has the number 1 pick, he'll pick like his summer blockbuster or his particular genre. And then that movie is off the table, so no one else can pick it. I think that'd be really fun to do on this show with a few guests. So we'll revisit this topic in a couple of months and do something like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But speaking of fun, before we start to wrap this show up, I've got 3 more sound clips to play from former guests and friends of the show. First up is Mr. Carlos Longoria. Then we have Steve Wise and Chad Sanders giving their thoughts on the podcast throughout these last 10 years.
Hey, bud, congratulations on 10 years. I've never been one to listen to or watch interview shows regularly. Yours is the exception, though, and with good reason. The host, Mr. Derek Diamond, is the best interviewer I've ever heard. You listen to your guests, ask interesting questions, and you keep it going about them, and that's really something. I don't have a particular moment in the show itself that I've, can pick out, but I still wanted to congratulate you on 10 years. That's really an incredible feat, and I hope you have a lot more in you to share with us. Congratulations and happy anniversary.
Hey Derek, this is Steve Wise. I'd like to congratulate you on 10 years of the Derek Diamond Experience. Wow, what an achievement. You should be proud of what you've done over the last decade, and I can honestly say you've made some interesting and compelling content over the years. Thank you for letting me take a small part in your show from time to time, and I look forward to doing it again. Here's to another 10 years.
All right, I'm taking care of this in the fast food line after filming An Irishman running around the Bay Center. 10 years of the Derek Diamond Experience is crazy. 10 years of anything is insane. But when you know someone and knows how much work it's been into it and how much materials come out of it, that's what makes it all impressive. But what I love about it is the fact that I've got to participate. And I definitely remember a time in my filmmaking career where I would listen to other local filmmakers on the Derek Diamond Experience and just wish one day I could be on that podcast talking about something I've helped make or something I like. And I've not only been lucky enough to do that I've been looking to do that with Derek on either his projects or projects we worked on, or something like the John Carpenter Roundtable, which I greatly appreciate being a part of. So I'm just really stoked to be a part of that history, and I'm really excited to see 10 more years. So cheers to you, mate.
Thank you to Carlos, Steve, Chad, and of course to Jason, Wally, and Joey for submitting those really fun sound bites. Listening to all of them really, as I mentioned earlier, justifies continuing to do the show. And I know it's been going through some changes over the last several years. It started out as a variety show, then went into discussing filmmaking, just having fun chats about movies, and that's been the most fun part of this show, is getting to connect with new people, learning about the filmmaking process, and just having fun chats with friends that we would have them anyway, whether it was having a roundtable discussion on Star Wars, John Carpenter, any of the topics that we've done. How you hear them is how we talk about those particular topics. So hopefully this show has, brought you some enjoyment and some entertainment, and maybe even an educational aspect throughout these last 10 years. It's been a pretty emotional ride for me, because I feel like the show has become part of me. And I know that might sound weird, but a lot of what I owe to this show, whether it's being more confident in my abilities as a speaker that led into me directing a couple of short films, getting to work on some other film sets. I wouldn't have the confidence that I do today if not for doing this podcast. So here's to 10 more years of the Derek Diamond Experience. And the show will be back next Monday with a very special guest. I don't want to reveal who it is yet, but I will say they play a prevalent voice in a cartoon that has been named numerous times on this episode. You'll hear that on next week's episode. But until then, you can check out past episodes of the podcast in the archives, as well as my YouTube channel. Or if you want to follow me on social media, you can head over to linktree.com/DDiamondPodcast. Everything is in one convenient location. You can subscribe to the show, the YouTube channel. Everything is at linktree.com/DDiamondPodcast. And if you could, please leave a review. The more reviews that the show gets, the more visible it is to those that are searching for podcasts. In this case, filmmaking, film and TV interview-based podcasts. It really does help, and it only takes a moment of your time. And most importantly, it doesn't cost anything, which is arguably the best part about it. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you again to everyone who has supported the show these last 10 years. Thank you to everyone who submitted your list. I'm your host, Derek Diamond, and we'll see you guys back here next Monday for another awesome episode of the Derek Diamond Experience podcast.